Hello and welcome to the harvest season. My name is Al,
And my name is Codey.
and we're here today to talk about farming games.
Woo!
Woo. The reason I question that is because today our main topic is going to be Alba, a wildlife adventure, which we'll talk about later, and is very definitely not a farming game. But there will be discussion of farming games in the news, which will be just before that, and some in the What Have We Been Playing, which is now. Codey, what have you been playing?
I am still playing Blocky Farm, Al.
Still?
What have you done to me?
Oh my word.
I have had so many of my friends ask me what I'm doing when I'm playing this game, and I have to explain to them, well, you see, my friend has a podcast. And I thought I would just record this, play this game for a week, but no, here I am. I'm level 31.
Oh my word.
I fish now. I have a candy machine.
Oh yeah.
It's a whole thing. But no, I still would recommend this game. I'm still capable of playing it very casually. I play like maybe 5 to 10 minute snippets a couple times a day, and that's about it. I've also had days where I just don't play, and it doesn't really punish you for that. So I've been playing that. I have been playing Ring Fit.
Yeah.
I've been alternating Ring Fit and running and rest days.
Right.
So that's great. My one complaint about Ring Fit is that in World 4, they just turn it up to 11 and they don't even warn you about it. So like I remember it was the first time that there's kind of like a mini boss battle, and he's got two little minions, and I, did a AoE attack, area of effect attack where that workout that hit all of them and got the two on the side down, and then I targeted the main guy. Halfway through, he calls for help, and two more come back. I literally screamed at my TV.
That is annoying. However, what I would say is, have you realised yet that if you're in a boss fight, like an actual boss fight, and you defeat the boss, you don't have to defeat the other ones?
What?
Yeah. I found this out the other day because I also have been playing Ring Fit. And I was like one away from defeating a boss, and he called reinforcements, and I was like, oh my word, I can't believe he's just done that. But then I was like, you know what, let me just get rid of him, because then he can't call any more allies. And I did it, and it finished it. It was done.
Wow.
The minions that were with him, the allies that were with him, just flew off when I defeated him. They were not just defeated, but they went with him. So very useful piece of information for you.
Good to know. I love it. It's such a great game. And in the same world, they also introduce monsters that heal themselves, which was another special hell.
They're so annoying. Not just themselves, but they can heal other monsters as well.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but I assumed that was going to happen because that's the next logical progression.
Yeah. In fact, there's a big version of that monster that can heal all of them all at once.
No.
I've only come across that once, though.
It's not going to make me stop. I do really enjoy it. I feel like it definitely helps build up your muscle tone, and it changes often enough. Like you either get access to a new move, or there's a new little mini game, or what have you. That it doesn't feel prohibitive. Like you just gotta keep moving. You feel the progress as you go. So definitely love Ring Fit, recommend it. Be prepared to yell at your TV a couple times. The last thing that I've been playing recently is the Halo games. So I, growing up, never had an Xbox. So I just completely skipped this franchise, and my partner loves those games. And so I bought the Master Chief Collection, and we've been playing the campaigns together. So we beat the first one, and we are now next weekend we're going to start the second one. So that is what I have been playing. What have you been playing, Al?
Cool. I have not been playing Blocky Farm. I guess we'll finish that conversation just now. I played that game for longer than I expected, probably about another week and a half after we recorded our podcast. But then I uninstalled it. I was like, I need to unlock fishing. I need to see what it's like. And it's weird. It's real weird. But let's not get into a huge blocky farm discussion. So yeah, I'm not playing that. What I am playing is obviously over the last few days I've been playing Alba in preparation for this. What else have I been playing?
You played Ring Fit every day of February, right?
I did. I played Ring Fit every day of February. So I've been doing that. I've also been doing fitness boxing too, a couple times a week as well, which is very good. I like both of those games. So I did fitness boxing every day for January and Ring Fit every day for February. And it was very interesting to see the difference. Ring Fit is very definitely focused on muscle building. And fitness boxing too is very definitely just cardio. And so with that, you obviously burn a lot more calories doing fitness boxing, which is my main focus, because I just want to kind of get down to a more healthy weight. I don't really care about my muscles. Yeah, so I don't really care about that. I don't have a life that means that I need to kind of lift anything heavy, so I don't really care about that. I just kind of want to get my weight down a little bit. And obviously be healthier in general. It's not all about weight, blah, 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 whatever.
Well, I think that those games, like the fitness type games right now, the biggest thing for me is that we're not getting it in any other way, really, with like the pandemic. No one's going to a gym if they're good.
No one should be going to a gym.
Yeah, no one should be going to a gym. And no one, like, not a lot of people have home gyms. Like, I certainly don't have space for that, but I do have space to move a coffee table aside so that I can play a fun game. And so, or, go for a walk. But as we, it's cold right now. So,
you were about to refer a conversation we had before recording, weren't you?
Yes, I was. About how cold it was.
Yeah, it is cold.
And so, yeah, it's cold out right now. It's winter. I can't go for a hike all the time like I would normally be doing. And so having that type of game is just really, it gets you moving and it gets the cobwebs, like, it just makes working out in that way clears your head in a good way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So. And I'm not saying that Ring Fit is only for people who want, big muscles. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I think just overall, I think I'm preferring fitness boxing too, just because it feels like I'm getting more out of it. Like obviously I feel my muscles are being built up by Ring Fit and I'm not going to stop doing it. I'm probably going to do it at least once a week. But I'm probably going to focus more on the kind of fitness boxing too, because that gives me that cardio, which makes me feel a lot better. I think I feel like I'm getting more out of that one, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I hate cardio.
What? Yeah, I agree, but also fitness boxing too has been the most fun I've had doing cardio.
Oh, that's cool.
So I normally focus on like cycling, obviously not very much in the winter. But that's, I'll get back to that hopefully soon.
Sweet.
What else? I've been doing my mostly daily Stardew stream. So I've been playing one day of Stardew most weekdays. I didn't yesterday. Yesterday when we're recording, which was 2 days ago when this episode comes out. But hopefully every other weekday I will be. So I've been doing that. And then that has also led me into an interesting addition, which is I have been playing Animal Crossing most weekdays. So not very much, like 15, 20 minutes after my Stardew stream, just to do a little bit. I'm playing Animal Crossing the way that Rochelle says I should play Animal Crossing.
I found that watching you stream has made me want to play those games. So I have also been playing. I didn't start a new Stardew, but I've been playing one day of my Stardew a day at random times of the day. And then also the same with Animal Crossing. I've actually been like picking up Animal Crossing and playing it. So You are an
Cool.
inspiration, sir.
Thank you. I try.
You succeed. It's good. It's nice too, because like I get to that part of the day where I'm just like stressed and feeling overwhelmed, and I just really just I've already cleaned my entire apartment. I need one more thing to procrastinate work, and so I'll just play Animal Crossing instead.
Yeah.
Feels
fair
good.
enough. So yeah, that's about what we've been playing. Shall we talk about some news?
Yes. Please.
So the first piece of news is that the Forager multiplayer is in closed beta just now. So I think there was a sign-up form a few months ago if you wanted to get into it. Apparently the Hop Frog account doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what happened there. That's weird. So the tweet that was going to be in the show notes doesn't exist.
Oh.
Fantastic. Anyway, I don't know whether that's still happening, whether something's gone weird with that. But the Forager multiplayer is in closed beta. Sorry, I was clicking on that so I could give
that
you more
account
information.
does not exist.
What's that about? Here we go. There's more information on Steam. I don't think there's much more to say about it, but basically, here we go. So if you were on their Discord and you were level 10 or higher on their Discord, or you are a gold or diamond tier on their Patreon, you can get into the closed multiplayer beta. There we go. The gold and diamond tiers are $15 per month and up. And presumably level 10 on the Discord server will take a lot of work. So if you're not already that and you don't want to pay the money, you're probably not going to get into it. But presumably there will be a more open beta at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played Forager?
I have not.
Fair enough. I'm intrigued with the multiplayer. It'll probably encourage me. I've not picked it up in quite a while because I basically completed the game and then went, that was fun. I might pick it up again at some point though, when this multiplayer comes out.
If you need a guinea pig for when multiplayer comes out, you can teach me the ropes.
Fair enough. And it is on Switch, which is the important thing.
Very important.
Next, we have Roots of Pacha or Pacha. I'm not sure. I presume it's Pacha because, let's be honest, it probably won't be Pacha. This is
Pacha.
Pacha. Oh.
I don't know
so
what
American.
they want, though.
I don't know where the developers are from, though, so I can't make any assumption about that. Anyway, this is a prehistoric farming game, and it is up on Kickstarter now. It has hit its goal, and it has a bunch of stretch goals, some of which it has, some of which are still to come. So if that is something of interest to you, go get that now.
I love this art style. There's a video of like 50 goats running across the screen. They posted it February 28th for anyone that's looking on their Twitter. Go find it. It's adorable.
Yeah, this looks fun. I like the prehistoric aspect of it. Presumably that means there's going to be much less technology. Or maybe they'll do a Flintstones style thing where they have technology, it's just made of animals. I don't know. But yeah. Link will be in the show notes to that one. Next, we have an announcement from Witchery Academy, which I think we've talked about, but I've not really talked about a huge amount. You are a wizard's apprentice. Anyway, the announcement is that it's coming to Switch. So if you are interested in that game, but you wanted it on Switch, good news.
Woo.
Next, we have some Harvest Moon One World information. I'm not going to detail this, but there's a long blog post of here's a bunch of more information about it. That will be in the show notes. There is a lot of information here and some videos and stuff like that. So this game comes out 2 days after the podcast comes out. So if you're up for that, then go get it. I am hoping to get this game and do some streaming of it so that people can see what it's like, because I suspect it may well not get as much press as some other farming games. And I really want it to be good, so I'm going to try it out and see what it's like. So if you're intrigued as to what it's like, obviously we'll be doing a podcast episode about it sometime. I don't know when, but sometime when I can convince someone else to play the game. And if you want to see what it's like before that, then come look at my Twitch and see what it's like, which will be linked in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that'll be. I will enjoy watching you play this game.
We've also got some more Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olivetown news. The game is now out in Japan. So basically we know all of the game. So I'm not going to give you all of the information, but if you want more information, there's information out there. Personally, at this point, I'm just waiting for the game to come out so I can play it. And there are a bunch of English language streamers that have the game. Probably some others as well, but that's all I've been paying attention to. So despite the game not being out, they already have access to it 3 weeks early. So if you are wanting to see what it's like before you buy it, you can go check out one of the streamers. I think if you go to the Marvelous Twitter account, which I will share in the show notes, they are like constantly retweeting people when they're going live. So you can do that. And finally, some exciting farming game news. There has been a release of the Stardew Valley board game.
It looks so good. Was this even announced? Like, was this even hinted at all?
Nope.
I feel like this came out of the blue, and Concerned Ape was basically like, here it is, and it's you can get it right now. Like,
that was it. It was a complete shadow drop. We did not know this was coming. There was no mention of it, and it wasn't a pre-order. It was, hey, buy the game now. Oh, it's sold out.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you want it, you're going to have to wait because they're going to need to make some more. If you want it and you're not in America, you're going to have to wait because the version that they first released only shipped to America. And for both of those reasons, I sadly did not get it. But I will be getting it as soon as I can because it looks very interesting. It's one of these things where generally I decide whether a board game is good or not based on how many pieces it has. The fewer pieces, the better. This is not that type of game, but I'm still going to get it, and I'm sure I will be very confused with it for ages, but eventually grow to love it and try and get everybody to play it.
Definitely.
So it's kind of like a standard resource management game, if you've played any of those types before. There's lots of games like it.
I think the thing that I love about it is that it is you can play it by yourself.
Oh, can you? Is it one?
Yeah, so it says that it's
1 to
for
4 players.
1 to 4 players.
Wow.
And the standard experience of a full year in the game takes about 45 minutes per player. So it can be quite an experience.
It's going to be such a long game for 4 people. I love it.
I think it looks really good. I love the art style, and I love Concerned Ape mentions that this is the very first merchandise project where they are acting as the publisher from start to finish. So, there's just it looks, I want it.
Yeah. So, keep an eye, if you want to get it, keep an eye on their Twitter and the blog, because I'm sure we are not the correct place to hear about this, because as soon as it comes up, it'll go out of stock again. That's what always happens with these things. But I'll link the blog post that it was originally announced in, which does have a link to the store, but obviously it's currently out of stock. So that's the news. Shall we talk about the game Alba, a wildlife adventure?
Yes, I would love to.
Exciting.
So this game, Alba, is developed by Us2 Games. It is currently available free on Apple Arcade, which is how I played it.
That is also how I played it.
A couple weekends ago or a month ago. I'm not entirely sure. Time is an illusion. It's also available for $16.99 US dollars on Steam. It will be launching for PlayStation 5 and 4, Xbox One and S and all of that, and Nintendo Switch, which is the most important thing that we're all concerned about. In spring 2021, in air quotes. So not entirely sure. Yep. No firm release date yet, but I am holding my breath. I do want it on Switch.
Yeah, before we continue with that, here's one thing I did think about is, do you know who Us2 Games are? Do you know what they've previously done?
I do not.
Did you ever play Monument Valley?
No, you've mentioned this before, and I have not.
So if people are listening, I'm sure many of them will have heard of Monument Valley. It's a mobile puzzle game, and it was kind of lauded as this really great puzzle game. So it's the same, the developer that made Monument Valley, just for a little bit of context for people. So there we go.
So you can follow the game they have really cute updates that they post to their Twitter, which is just at Wildlife Alba. And as Al mentioned, this is not a farming game.
Not at all.
But we don't care.
We don't care. Don't tell us it's not a farming game. I don't care. We want to cover it.
I mean, you can technically say that you're farming for pictures of
come on. In that case, Pokemon's a farming game. Oh, wait, we already did an episode on Pokemon.
Let's do it. We're going to have next week. You heard it here, folks.
This is now officially a Pokemon podcast.
Next week, we're starting with Red and Blue. No, I'm kidding. So to focus back on Alba. So the story of the game, you play Alba, a young girl who's very interested in nature and conservation, as she visits her grandparents on a Mediterranean island. Alba and her best friend Inez band together to categorize the wildlife and clean up the island, and they petition the mayor to stop the conversion of the local wildlife refuge into a hotel. As you collect signatures for your petition, you also perform tasks around the island, like repairing bird boxes, cleaning up animals that have been polluted by an oil spill, and taking pictures of the wildlife that you see in the, I think, 8 different unique areas across the island.
Yes.
You have 3 to 5 days. We weren't certain about how many days. You have only a handful of days to convince the mayor to stop the hotel construction and save the refuge and the island's wildlife. So this game is just a great feel-good adventure game that can be completed in one sitting or a weekend. Like I said, I did it in a weekend, just playing little bits at a time. I played like one in-game day per day, and I think for me, it amounted to 8 total hours of gameplay. What about you, Al?
Yeah, I think mine was probably less, although I'll probably talk about this later. I'm pretty sure I spent a full hour trying to find the last thing in the game, which I will complain about later, but let's not do that now. I probably spent something like 4 or 5 hours on it in total. I basically played it over the weekend as well. I spent a few hours each day playing it, a couple hours each day playing it. I think we obviously aren't going to talk about the whole story because we don't want to spoil it for everything. The premise is kind of pretty standard, but it's really fun. I like that you're what? She must be like 12 or 15 or something like that. No, certainly no older than 15. I don't think. It's hard to know exactly because there's a bit at the beginning of the game where she's like a really young child, and then it goes to 10 years later, and to me, she looks 10, but she clearly must be older than 10. I don't know, but I like that you're not an adult and you are this kid running around doing fun stuff. And because of the setting, like this little island community, you can just run everywhere and nobody's really worried about you very often.
Yeah.
which is good fun because otherwise that kind of aspect of it would feel a bit weird to me. Like, why are my grandparents letting me run around unaccompanied in the woods? But it worked. It really worked quite well on in the setting. And yeah, we're not going to discuss specifics about the story, but I enjoyed the story overall. Yeah, that's about all I really want to say about the story. It's a fun, not very complicated, but mildly interesting in a few places.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite reviews that I saw for the game was for PC Invasion. I think it was Kurt Perry was the author, and they said that it was the comfiest game of 2020. And I agree. It was just such a pleasant game. And a big part of that was the graphics, which is the next section.
Yeah.
Is talking about the graphics and the sound of the game. So I thought these graphics are just so pleasing and so cute. It's got 3D graphics with a full camera control, so you can control whatever angle your camera is at.
Well, it's you say full camera control. Were you playing it on Mac? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was playing it on the iPad. I don't know if it was the same on Mac, but you just had it was 360-degree camera control in one dimension.
Very fair. Yes.
Like you couldn't move up and down with the camera except when you had the phone camera out.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
Cool. That's fine. I don't know. I didn't know whether that was different on the Mac version or not.
I actually don't remember, and I can totally bring it up while we're talking because my Mac opens it very quickly.
It'll be interesting to talk about the control when we get to the mechanics and stuff because the controls, I suspect, are very different.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah.
The graphics are the really nice balance between simple and complex, but not too complex, not too simple, but also just look gorgeous. Like, I love it when a game can do... This is not photorealistic. We are not trying for that. This is so far from photorealistic. Like, the trees are very clearly only a few polygons, right? They are so simple, but they look gorgeous. Like, I don't understand how something so simple can look so good. But also there's so much detail in the animals. Right. Yeah. So like the tree is clearly like 5 polygons, but the animals are really so detailed. They have gone all out for these animals in detail. I really like that.
Yeah. And it's what matters. I think most people that are drawn to this game are drawn to like the whole premise of the game is to take pictures of animals. So you got to put the effort where it's most important. Update on the angle. No, I can angle it a bunch of different ways.
Right. Okay. You can go up and down with the camera.
Yeah. You can't do too much top down. So, like you don't go above Alba at all, but I can pretty much look from like Alba's perspective, but like straight into the sky.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I don't think that you can do that on iPad. You just go round, but I don't know whether that is an option, and I can't see an option for that. So yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. We'll talk about graphic controls later because there's a lot to talk about on the iPad version.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to shout out in this section was the sounds. So the sounds of the game really make you feel like you're there. So there's just the natural sounds of the different areas where like the wind against the trees when you're in the forest. If you're on the beach, there's a lot of beach sounds like lapping water against the sand, wind chimes if you're by your grandparents' house. There's towny noises when you're by the town, but also the animal sounds. So as a wildlife biologist and someone that has learned a lot of bird sounds, this was so amazing to have in a game where like I know what some of these birds sound like. So even before I had recognized that I needed a picture of, a peregrine falcon, for example, I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a peregrine.
Wow.
And I feel like that is the same experience you have when you are in the real world. So for example, right now, in the northern hemisphere of the United States, a lot of birds are migrating back north. So every day seems like a new adventure where I take my dog for a walk and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a tufted titmouse. Oh my gosh, the cardinals are back. Oh my gosh. And I'm hearing all my friends talk about how, they heard a red-winged blackbird for the first time. And I'm like, ugh, man, I want to hear that. And so it really mirrors that birding aspect of it, of experiencing wildlife in that way. So I adored that. I don't know what your experience of that is.
That's very interesting. So let me just say, there's a reason I got you on this podcast. I don't think anybody else could have done justice to this like you do. I am not an animal person. My parents were bird watchers, or are bird watchers. They're not dead. Are bird watchers, and I don't know. I never really got it. It was almost one of those things where their enthusiasm about it kind of turned me off.
That's fair.
But yeah, like I grew up with them. We had this kind of standard suburban type house with a garden at the back, and they would always put out stuff for the birds and other animals. And we had quite a lot of windows at the back, and we would have a kind of thing underneath the window that would show you all the different birds that you could see. So like they were obsessed with that sort of stuff, but I was never really into it. So, but one thing I did get with that growing up was I kind of gained a lot of knowledge accidentally about birds. So like I could see a lot of them and go, oh yeah, that's clearly a great tit. Like I know what that bird is. But there weren't a huge number of them like that. Like I could like maybe 5 or so that I looked at and I knew that was what it was. So through that and through their Twitter, where they like to retweet people who say that this is a good game, obviously. But in that are people like you who say this is really good, this is really accurate. They've done this really well. Like people almost surprised by it, where they go in expecting there to be mistakes and going, no, this is good. I like this. But there's always that little bit in the back of your mind where you're like, but is it? Is this just like people saying it is? So it's good to hear you kind of confirm that and go, actually, no, it's good. The call, I didn't realize like the animal sounds were actually pretty accurate as well.
Yeah.
They've clearly either the people doing it are kind of your amateur bird watchers, or they clearly got experts in to help with that aspect of it, which is really good. But yeah, I didn't have a huge amount of that like you did, because I am not a biologist. I am not a bird watcher like my parents are, but yeah, I did have a wee bit of that through just gaining some knowledge from them by osmosis.
Yeah, it's just so refreshing. As I'm trying to think of a parallel in other, maybe like, so you're a coder, right? Like your job is like a computer programmer or whatever. So if you're like watching a movie and they're coding and it's just so unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's like that. So the media and video games and everything has kind of prepared me to be disappointed when it comes to accurate representation of animals. Like, in most movies, when you see an eagle and it makes a noise, the noise coming out of the eagle is a red-tailed hawk.
Yeah.
Or
I know.
like,
I heard that recently about the bald eagle, which has this clearly, everybody knows it has this very, very distinctive call, which isn't its actual call.
It's a completely different bird.
That is the most American thing, I have to say. Like, we have this animal that is the most majestic thing, but we pretend that it sounds different. It didn't sound good enough for us.
Or like I'm watching a movie and it's captivating and it's got this beautiful, like, it's like landscape. It's, and it goes across a desert. And as it's going across a desert, you hear a red-tailed hawk. And I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't be there. I'm out. Like,
that's just such a distinctive... It's just such a distinctive scene, and it's just a lie.
Yeah, and nobody or like I'm watching something, I'm watching a movie that's in It's supposed to be Oregon, Western United States, and then I hear a cardinal, and I'm like, cardinals aren't there. Like, that's not. So to
Amazing.
have something get it right,
Yeah.
especially something that I feel like if this game is bringing attention to the importance of wildlife cataloging, wildlife conservation, and if they had done it wrong, that would have been
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
just not even
definitely.
had the bird songs or something. And it's such a beautiful touch that they really it shows that the passion goes beyond the game. They're not just like, oh, we're gonna make all those wildlife ecologists play our game. Like they actually care about
Yeah.
these animals. So I enjoyed that a lot. Thank
I
you.
was just as you were saying that, I have the game open next to me on my iPad, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
watching all the different animals doing their thing. And
Mm-hmm.
just as like one of these, like the point about the small touches they've done, I'm
Mm-hmm.
standing next to, like not the hotel they were building, but there's another construction project happening somewhere. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
the one I mean? The
Oh
one that
gosh.
it's like next to the chapel. Anyway, not important. There's another construction project that looks like it had started and then stopped, but it's clearly not part of the hotel construction.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there was a cat that walked up onto the wall and just started walking along the wall. And then it was
Mm-hmm.
looking up at another wall slightly higher, and it looked like it was getting ready to jump. And then it just went, nah, and just walked off. And I was like, I just love the fact that they've made it do that, right?
Yeah.
They've made it think I'm going to jump, make it look like it's going to do it, and then decide it can't do it and just walk off. Like it's just it's that attention to detail that's just really nice.
And there's so many things like that even though I have spent, 8 hours in the game on Apple Arcade, I'm gonna play it when it comes on Switch, and I am going to keep going back to it because there are things like that you never see, but then when you see, like when you notice them, it's just so cute.
Yeah.
My one last shout out for graphics was the head nodding graphic.
Uh,
So
I
when
I
you
kind of love and hate this. Anyway,
oh
explain it to
no.
people.
Okay, so basically whenever there's a decision that you have to make a yes or no answer to. So at one point someone asks if you want an ice cream and you're like yes or no. You either have to nod or shake your head, and you literally, so in the PC version, the Mac version, you use your trackpad or your mouse to you just move it up and down or side to side, and your head moves at the same rate that you nod. So if you go very slowly, it's like a very slow nod, or you can just go crazy, and it's just so cute. I love it. Like every time I do it, I just smile, crack a huge smile because it's just so cute. I'm not entirely sure why exactly. What are your thoughts, Al?
Yeah, I do like it. It's a really nice touch. I love the idea of not just pressing a button to say yes or no, and it's really kind of
Mm-hmm.
intuitive. I'm sure there are people who's, culturally nodding and shaking don't mean yes and no, but
Fair.
um other than that, I think it's really intuitive, and it's clear. I mean, it's clearly focused on a Western audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can ignore that just now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in general, that is, it's also like if you start off with a straight face before you start answering anything, and then as you start nodding the head or shaking, you either go into a smile or a frown. But did you notice there is at least one point in the game where nodding is a bad thing? So it's not a bad thing, but it's basically you're saying that you have a negative or not a negative emotion, but you have a non-happy emotion. I don't want
Oh,
to say too much to give away that point. Do you know the bit in the
okay.
game I mean?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't
I'll
recall.
tell you later
Okay.
which bit it was, but you have to nod to say that yes, I have this non-happy emotion. And
Mm,
they even thought to make sure that you don't smile then. When you're nodding, you actually do a little sad face because you're sad. And that's fine.
yeah.
You're saying, but it's like, because if you nodded and you smiled, that would have felt really wrong. And I was like, oh, this is going to feel
Yeah.
weird. And I didn't went, oh no, that worked.
Yeah.
And it clearly, you've played through the game, you clearly didn't notice it. So it clearly shows how intuitive that bit is, that you didn't find that weird.
Yeah. That's a
And
good
I was just
point.
kind of expecting it to be weird, and it didn't, and that was really nice. So yeah, it's. But I also it kind of gets annoying, and a little bit. The reason it is because I'm playing it on the iPad. I've mostly been playing it I've got an iPad stand that kind of hovers it above my desk.
Yes.
Or I was sitting on the sofa with it on me. Because it's an iPad rather than an iPhone, because I don't have an iPhone and it's not on Android, my hand kind of gets a bit sore doing some of the controls, because it's not sitting on a mouse or sitting on something with my phone in my hand. So that nodding felt a little bit like I'm just doing more actions to do what I could be doing. So it was a nice touch. I would have liked to have been able to skip that in the future, but you know what? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's fun. I suspect the way that I'm playing this on a 13-inch iPad Pro, probably a very uncommon way to play this. So I totally get why they did what they did. I'm very in the minority of that bit, but yeah, no, that was good fun.
Did you have anything else on graphics, Al?
No, I think I not really. It's good. I like it.
Sweet. So moving on to mechanics, the first thing is the pacing of the game. So there are 5 question mark days. It's kind of
yeah, you're gonna have to explain that.
Yeah, so you start out like there's kind of the prequel, right? Like that Al mentioned where you're a little girl and you're visiting, you're maybe like 4 or 5. That doesn't really count as the days of the game. It's just kind of like an introduction. And then in this there's another kind of pre-day, but it's when you're older and you're visiting for the first time, and you go with your family and your best friend to La Roqueta, which is a little island off the coast of the main island. And that part teaches you the basic gameplay mechanics, get to know the main characters a little bit. And so this is also kind of like a main gameplay thing. Like you don't have all of those.
It's the tutorial basically.
Yeah. And then you start, but that's technically still kind of a quote unquote day.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 main days in which the majority of the story happens. And then there's a 4th day that's kind of quote unquote 4th day that just goes until you don't want to play anymore. Like, and then you pause it or end. So there's quote unquote 5 days, but the majority of the story occurs within the 3.
Yeah. So I guess we should maybe explain how the days work. Because basically how that works is you start out the day and I think there's a story, a small bit of story in each day that you have to complete. And once you've done that bit, then you get an action, which is basically go to your grandparents to end the day. It kind of gets to sunset time, so you can then, I think, keep playing infinitely if you wanted and not finish the day, and it won't get dark. But it's essentially just the way to progress the story. So each day has you won't be able to progress the story until you get to the next day. It's not like in farming games where a day is timed. It doesn't work like that at all. It's literally you can play as much as you want in the day, but you're not. Once you get to a point, there's nothing left to do in that day. You need to go to your house to then go to sleep and wake up for the next day. And then the final day, as you say, is basically just you've finished the story. It's after you've finished the story, and you're apparently meant to be flying home that day, but nothing ever changes. Like you never actually get on the plane. It's literally just be able to complete all of the things you didn't complete during the story. So yeah, it's quite nice the way they did those days. I like that because it kind of explains the story in a nice way rather than like you are kind of artificially going through the story. It is literally just, oh, here are the things we're doing today, and then you go to bed and it's like, okay, now today is the day we need to do this bit, and then and we need to do this bit before tomorrow, or tomorrow we're going to do that bit. It's kind of a nice way of breaking up that story naturally, I think.
Yeah. They also don't give you access to all of the like tools at first, for example.
Yeah.
And all of the animals. So not all of the animals are active in the first day. So even if, you wanted to go and try and find all of the animals in the first day, you won't be able to, because they're not all out and about that day. So it allows you, it almost forces you to pace yourself, but I also didn't, it just felt natural to pace myself. I normally am quite the game guzzler, where I just will try and complete a game as quickly as possible. But this game really made me take my time, and, I would play like a little bit one day and I'd be like, yeah, I feel like I did a good amount today, and I'm just going to stop here and I'll pick it up again tomorrow. And it was just very calming. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also a nice size of play area where none of that is frustrating. Because I think if it was much bigger than it was, you'd be like, oh, I need to go back home to sleep just so I can do the next bit of story, which is probably going to be on the other side of the map. But it is really this kind of very local, small island. It's big enough for some for things to exist on the island, like a farm and stuff like that. But it's not too big that none of that feels annoying.
Yeah, it's a good size map.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I guess maybe we could talk about the length of game as well at this point. It is not a long game. So you mentioned you finished it, I presume 100%ed it in 8 hours, or is that just the story? Is that 100%?
No, it's 100%.
Yeah, so I basically have 100%ed it. There's one thing that I've not done, which I will again talk at the end, because I want to leave that negativity till the end. And I probably did it in about 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. It's not a long game, but I like that. I'm much more, as I get on in my life, happy about the idea of playing games that aren't like 100 hours, 200 hours to complete, because I like different experiences. I like to play lots of games. Like if this was a 40-hour game, this podcast was quite last minute. We never would have been able to play it all. I never would have been able to play it all before this podcast. And two, that would mean that there'd be something else that I wouldn't be playing. I like playing more smaller games than lots of bigger games. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah. I agree. Like I normally don't like shorter games, because I always think of it as, if I'm going to be spending the money, I want a longer game. Like I want something that has really good replayability value, that, even if I'm only spending, X amount of money, I want it to be worth my time and money. And like I said, right before this game, I played this game. I got a new MacBook Air, and you get 3 months of Apple Arcade for free when you do that. And so, and I knew that Alba was on Apple Arcade, so I was like, well, I can play it for free now. Sweet. But that being said, like I've already mentioned, I will be getting this when it comes on Switch. So, I think this game is worth paying for, even though I've already played it, because it's just so pleasant, and I could see myself replaying this game over and over and over again, just to see if things are different, like find the cat trying to jump on the ledge and deciding, nah, like, because there's so much attention to detail, and you cannot get it all in one playthrough. So and that, the fact that it is a shorter game lends to that replayability. Like if it took 40 hours to beat this game, I'd be like, and I'm done. I'm never replaying this again, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But since it's so short, and you can just do it in a weekend, or like share this with a friend and like have your friend play it, I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
So not everything is available on the first day. I guess that's kind of it for pacing.
Yeah, I think we covered all that.
Yeah, so moving on to the controls of the game. So I guess, as we said, different because you
Yeah.
played it with iPad. So, I mean, it's just your basic movement, like trackpad and mouse game with the WASD keys to control your movement, and then the trackpad and mouse controls your camera. So what is it like on the iPad?
So on the iPad, it's quite interesting. So first of all, it's in portrait. You can't play it in landscape,
Oh.
which is very good for a phone, very
Mm-hmm.
weird for an iPad Pro. I never use my iPad Pro in this way. So that was
Yeah.
new for me. But as I said, I am very much an unusual user of this game, I suspect. The controls are basically the screen is split in half, and the top half controls the camera, and the bottom half controls the movement. So there's
Oh,
nothing
that's
on
so
screen,
interesting.
but basically you move left and right. You swipe your finger left and right on the top of the screen to move the camera, and on the bottom of the screen you press and swipe to move, and it actually works really nicely. Um,
That is unique.
it is very unique and it works really well. I think it's a little bit cumbersome if you're wanting to hold a 13-inch iPad Pro in your hand and do it,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you have to use two hands in that case. It doesn't work. You can't have one hand go to both areas. I think
Yeah.
it works really well on a smaller screen. I actually feel like probably the best way to play this on an iOS device would be on an iPad mini.
Mm-hmm.
I think that size of screen would probably be best.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I do actually have an iPad mini that my kids use. I didn't try it. I probably should have tried that now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I think that would have been the best way to play that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's how that camera works. Um, I'm intrigued as to how you so that you can sneak in this game if you to sneak up to animals. How do you sneak?
The animation is so cute.
So in on the iPad to sneak, you basically just move your finger a little bit from its initial position, and you move slowly. And the further away you are from your initial position, the faster you are. So how did they implement sneaking? Because you just said it's WASD for movement. Is there like a button
Uh,
press to go slowly?
yeah, it's the shift key.
Okay, right, okay,
So you
interesting.
just put shift down and then you sneak.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, and the animations are so freaking cute. Um,
Yeah,
the other movement animation that's really cute is the skip animation. So if you're moving forward for, a certain amount of time, I want to say like 3 seconds or so, Alba starts to skip. And it's so childlike, like
yeah,
I don't know. So on top of the movement, you have access to 4 different actions, but through the use of, I guess this is again probably specifically Mac and probably Steam as well for PC, where it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is it like a button you have to push out or?
yeah. On this one, the four are overlaid on the screen at the bottom, so you've just got
Okay.
four down the
Okay.
bottom, and you click on the different one.
Neat. So the first thing is the to-do list. So this is kind of your where your tasks appear for the day, and you
Yeah.
can track your progress of the petition or completing the island's Pokedex. I mean field guide. Um, but yeah, I thought that was I liked
Yeah,
that.
it's quite nice. I have some issues about it, but I think I'll
Mhm.
leave them till later. But in general, it's quite nice in that you come across something and it adds to your to do list, and then you complete it and it's gone. I
Mhm.
quite like. Um, it's generally quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah. The second thing is the camera, which is the biggest thing that you use.
Yeah.
So this is what you use to take pictures of all of and catalog all of the wildlife on the island. So you can zoom in and out to take the picture. So for this, I'm curious, Al, with the iPad,
Yeah.
if you go into camera mode, can you then move the iPad and it'll like move
So
the camera?
yeah, so there are two ways you can do it. You can either have gyroscope movement, in which case you just move it around. I did not do that, and the reason I did not do that is it wasn't working on my iPad properly.
Oh no!
It had a weird thing with the gyroscope where it had flipped it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So my movement was flipping as well. So I wanted to move right, I had to move left. So it was very confusing, so it wouldn't work for me. I suspect it's probably because I'm on a 13-inch iPad Pro. I suspect it works fine on an iPhone, and is probably the best way to play this game at this point in time. I'm hoping the Switch version has the gyros as well, because I think that is a really good way to do this.
That was my first thought. Like, I cannot wait to do that on the Switch.
It'll make it so much better than what I had to do. If you don't use the gyroscope, you have to drag on the screen to move it. And you can't like zoom and move at the same time. And the movement speed is not great. So I'm not a huge fan of that. And I think that if you can use the gyroscope, absolutely use the gyroscope. Yeah, how do the controls work? Oh, and also you can pinch to zoom in, which is very nice. Just a small thing. Yeah, how does it work on your computer?
You just select the camera and then you use your mouse to move, to like angle it.
Yeah.
And then you use, I want to say like A to zoom in and S to zoom out or something.
Okay.
And then space bar to take the photo. So not as fun, but still very enjoyable.
So probably still much easier than this way was dreadful for taking pictures of birds that are flying in the sky. Because you'd zoom in to get it. Oh, it's gone. You can't.
Did you love those swifts?
They were dreadful. Oh, I hated them. And you know the worst thing about it is, after I'd spent on the first day like half an hour trying to get a picture of the swift, I then went to the castle the next day and there was a swift in the nesting box.
Yeah.
Not moving.
So I worked in the real world. My first wildlife like job was to watch violet green swallows and tree swallows, which are also aerial insectivores, a lot like chimney swifts and voxus swifts and the different, like the swifts that are in this game, and they just fly so fast.
I know,
and they're just so small. The second that I heard, honestly, when you're in the area of the game and you hear, like I heard the swift, like the type of call that they have, my heart, I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh no, that's gonna suck to take a picture of.
It sounds like it probably is a pretty accurate to real life representation.
It really was. Cause they just move so fast. I think most of the wildlife it's so easy to just take a really quick pic, like, oh, there's a duck, like I'm gonna take a picture of a duck, right? But they just do not stop.
Yeah.
And so I definitely enjoyed it, but I got the worst photo you could possibly get of one, and I just was like, I'm fine with it. Like,
it counts.
I don't care. It counts.
Yeah. I suspect using gyroscope probably makes that a lot easier because you can move while focusing on it and zooming and stuff like that. I think that would probably be a lot easier. And the gyroscope, if it works, you can move much faster than I can dragging across the screen. Although I suspect you can probably do that with your mouse as well. Although it sounds like you use a trackpad, which would be very annoying compared to mouse or gyroscope. Sounds like the best way to play this game.
It was finicky, especially the swift that I was trying to take a photo of was very high up, so I had to be zoomed in a lot. I literally timed it, so I literally put the camera at where I knew the swift was going to go by, and I counted how long it took for it to basically like complete its route. And then because the second it was in the frame, like I barely had time to react.
Yeah.
So I literally just counted it out because I was so frustrated at that point. Like frustrated, but not in a prohibitive way, like in a good way of like, I just want to get this picture.
Yeah.
And then like I can focus on trying to get a better picture later. But right now I'm already halfway across the map. I don't want to have to come back for this silly bird. So you have to get a clear in air quotes, photo of each animal species for it to be logged into your field guide, which I will talk about later. And yeah, I think we've already mentioned that there are some really unique things that the animals do. So you mentioned the cat. And I almost want to like get pictures of these animals doing these little cute things, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not normally one to want to go through and take these types of photos in games, but this game just makes me want to explore and take photos. So that's pretty cool. And you do have the opportunity to save the photo. And it'll save to, so on my MacBook, it saves to my photos library. And you can also share it, which I think will directly share it to your socials, like Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't realize till this point it wasn't already saving everything.
Yeah.
So none of my photos I have, and I'm really sad about that. I thought it was just saving them all, and I was getting ready to like go through them all and go, what ones are the good ones? Oh, well.
I know. Before recording this, I was like, oh, let me look through and see like what photos I want to share with Al or like, and same. I had not realized that the photos are not saved in game, or in some type of repository. So like I had a really cute one of the fox that just was so cute, and I hadn't realized that I needed to save it. But so listeners, do make sure that if you get like that beautiful picture, save it.
Yeah.
The third item was just a map of the islands. Not much to say about that. And then
one thing I really liked about this is you can orient yourself while looking at the map.
Oh, I hadn't recognized that.
So if you're like, oh, I want to get there, obviously on it shows you which way you're pointing. And so if you're like, I want to get there, right, let me point myself at it. You can just move yourself into that direction and then put away the map and start walking. I really like that because that's what you do in real life, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd kind of orient yourself and the map and see which way you need to walk, and then you'd put the map away and start walking. And that was a really nice quality of life thing that they have in.
I had not realized that. That's really cool. Yeah.
I think that's the only real thing I have to say about the map.
Yeah, pretty much.
Else, really. It's pretty simple. It's nice. It does the job.
A map. Yeah. And then the fourth thing was the nature guide or field guide, whatever you want to call it. So that shows you what animals are known on the island. You can see what you haven't seen and what, biome, quote unquote, or like what area of the island it is associated with. It lets you hear the sounds that the animals make. So that was one thing. There was one animal in particular that I was really struggling to find. So I went to the field guide, listened to the call a couple times, and then just walked around listening for that call.
So it does. I never know that. I never noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you capture, as we mentioned already, you captured the animal by taking a picture of it. Yeah. So
yeah, it's generally pretty nice. A field guide, I would say, I'd really like. It's got. If you go to a section, there's a tab to go back to the home. It would be really nice if there were tabs to go to the other sections in there as well, because at this point you have. If you're in, say, the forest section, looking at the red squirrel, you can go either back one page to the Eurasian sparrowhawk, forward one page to the blue tit, or click the home tab. That's all you can do at that point. It would be really nice if you had a button to go back to the beginning of the forest section. Because like quite often at the end of the game, what I do is I went through, I've got 3 left in this section, right? Well, let me go into that section, click on the first one that I've got. Now I can either swipe through the number to get to the next one, or press home and then click on forest again and then click on the next one that I have. That's a bit annoying. If you could have a button that just goes back to the forest and then click on the next one, that would have been much nicer. I think that's the only thing I had to complain about that one. Oh, no, there was one more thing. It doesn't make it clear. I know this is not how real life works, but it doesn't make it clear what areas are what. And so one example is that there's a farmland section, and the farmland is basically 2 sections, but I didn't realize it was 2 different sections until I was really stuck trying to get one of them. And realized that in fact it wasn't in this part of this farmland section, it was on the other farmland section on the other side of the island that I needed to go to. So I spent maybe half an hour really confused as to where this bird was before I realized it wasn't there at all. It was in the other farmland section. So it's just a little bit, I know it's not, I get what they're doing and it's generally quite nice. And I'm not even asking for like exact, like, oh yes, this pixel on the map is this area. But it, it just, some of them feel a little bit like, what exactly is mountain? What exactly is forest? Like it's a little bit unclear. And it wasn't a massive issue because most of them I just got by walking through the game and going, oh, I've not seen that one before, and take a picture. But it was at the end when I was cleaning up and finishing up. It took longer than it needed to.
Yeah. I think they could just have on the map, maybe, like they could delineate the different areas better.
Even just
with, like, lines. Yeah, that would probably help with that. Because I had a similar problem where I was like, it says that this bird is in this area, but I cannot find it. Like, I have walked this area so much and I cannot find this animal. What the heck? And it's the last day, so I know it should be available. The thing that I think that they could have, the one thing with the nature guide, field guide thing, that they could have had the pictures that you take of those animals stored there as well. It's almost like a photo album. That could have been a cool way to incorporate like in-game saving of the pictures or something.
And you could have done that really nicely where you've like put a paperclip on with the picture at the top of it or something like that. Or you didn't even need to necessarily do that because I guess Alba's not going to print them out. But yeah, just the whole idea of having, although I say that the educational boards, which you're about to talk about, you essentially do print them out for that. So they kind of, we've got the suspension of disbelief for that part. We could have done it for this as well. But
I love the educational boards aspect of it. So I don't know if you've ever, oh my gosh, my dog almost like knocked my laptop off my lap. I don't know if you've ever been in a wildlife refuge or something, but you come upon an area and there's like a board that talks about what's in front of you. And I loved that in this game where there were just sporadically throughout the different areas, there was a board that had four pictures of each animal that is in that area. So, it would have been 4 wetland birds or 4 beach birds. And when you come upon the educational board, it's dilapidated, it's broken, you got to fix it, and then you have to put the pictures on, because the pictures that were on the educational board are very old, decayed, ripped apart, And so it's almost like a puzzle because you have a picture that has a little bit of a bird on it, but you're not entirely sure what animal it is. So you kind of have to go through your pictures and be like, oh, well, is it the collared dove or is it which of the tits is it? Because there's like 10 in this game, So you got to kind of like figure that out. And I thought that was really fun. And it almost makes you have to remember the differences between the birds.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. It helps reinforce the learning the different organisms organically. And I super loved that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah.
It was good fun. Although you say you don't know if I've ever been to what part of my parents were bird watchers don't you get?
I didn't want to assume.
Come on. Of course I've been to places like that. And of course I've seen boards like that. When I say my parents were bird watchers, they are bird watchers. Why do I keep talking about them in the past tense? They actually are like proper bird watchers. Like there's a few places in Scotland where they have ospreys nesting. And so we've been to a couple of them and stuff like that. There's a place where I occasionally go on holiday that has it's not specifically a refuge, but they have an area that is, you're not allowed to go in, and there's just one small hut that you can go to bird watch. And stuff like that. So yeah, I've been to plenty of places like that.
I wasn't sure if the whole concept of, having a board that explains I don't know if that's an American thing or.
No, I think actually that I might be wrong, but I think that aspect actually came from Scotland and was taken to America from Scotland. Because it came with the national park type thing, which was started by a Scottish guy in America.
Oh.
So I might be wrong. Maybe somebody's going to correct me, but that is my understanding of it.
Who was the Scottish guy?
I can't remember his name. Give me 1 second.
Is it John Muir? I thought Muir was from.
It might be John Muir. Yeah, it might be.
I thought
John
he was
Muir.
from.
Yes, John Muir.
Scottish American naturalist. Okay.
Yep, he is originally from the southeast of Scotland, and then moved to America.
Yeah, he is a legend. That's for sure.
We actually have a course, a wildlife course that kids can do called the John Muir something, and we have a trail from his birthplace in Dunbar across the entire country to the west coast, called the John Muir Trail, which is a reasonably new thing, that one is. But he's very definitely Scottish, and Scotland makes sure to tell you when you're here.
No, that's good to know. I am a huge history of science buff, which is why when you were like, "Oh, he invented the net," I'm like, "That has to be Muir."
Yeah, it was John Muir.
That's really cool. Good to know. Yeah. So that was kind of all I had about the gameplay and all of the mechanics. I just kind of wanted to riff on one more thing, but before I do that, did you have anything about gameplay or mechanics?
Yeah, I have one more complaint I want to talk about that I wanted to leave till the end of the mechanics, but it's to do with the to-do list.
Okay.
Now, I like generally how the to-do list works, but one thing annoys me. There is no completed list. And the reason this is annoying is I currently, at the end of it, there are some, there's like a few smaller mechanics that we haven't really talked about, but there's not a huge amount to talk about them because it's just clicking a button, right?
Yeah.
So one of them is that you clear up rubbish around the island. And you literally just, all you do is you see it, you click on it, that's it done. So it's very simple. There's a few other things like that. Like there's some things that you have to rebuild and it's literally just click the button and you're done.
Yeah.
Which is a fun aspect to it, but not really worth talking about. But I have one rubbish patch left to clear up on the island. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And the problem is that I don't have my list of completed rubbish patches. So when you find the first part of a rubbish patch, it then says, "Oh, clear up on the North Beach," or whatever, right? So like it shows you the how many pieces there are on that one. But then once you completed it, it disappears. So I don't even have my list of areas that I've already completed rubbish in. So I'm having to scour the island, places that I've already completed, because I can't remember where I've completed to find this rubbish patch. I kid you not, I have spent about 2 hours. I have completed everything else in the game. I have spent about 2 hours trying to find this last rubbish patch. I know it exists. I cannot find it. And it's driving me insane. So I just want a list a little bit more detailed, at least a list of what I've already completed, and possibly a hint towards where this last rubbish patch is. It's driving me insane.
So you mentioned North Beach, but there's the Southeast Beach.
Is that the one that's beach near town?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of trash around the chairs.
Yeah, I've done that one.
Okay.
I've done that. I've done the North Beach. I've done the beach near town, the one that you just talked about. I've done the walk up to the castle, but I can't remember the other two that I've done. So I think I've done the woods. There was a bunch in the woods. I've done that. I can't remember where the other ones are.
There's another one in the farmlands, the different elevated orchard farmlands.
The orange farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've checked there. There's nothing there. So I must have either already done that one or finding it in the wrong place.
Yes. So I would be remiss as a environmentalist / wildlife conservationist / whatever if I didn't talk about the impact of this game. So this is outside of the game. This company, the developers have made commitments to just good causes. So the one thing was 1 million trees. So this game not only educates you about the importance of wildlife conservation and keeping our world clean and healthy, but on top of that, the developers have set the goal of planting 1 million trees. And this happens because every time a copy of the game is sold or downloaded, one tree is planted in a reforestation project in Madagascar. And so this is a project that's run by the nonprofit Eden Reforestation Projects. And they're restoring mangrove forests, which are super vital to the aquatic coastal environments there. And currently, Alba, this game, has planted 530,680 trees. I just think that's amazing.
And they're not even on Switch yet. Imagine what will happen when they do that.
Yes. So they will hit that. They will certainly hit 1 million trees. I will have my one cell there. Well, I guess technically two. Two of those trees will be mine. But yeah, so I think that's really cool. That's one way to like have your impact be just outside of, I mean, this whole game espouses, be a wildlife conservation warrior, do your part. And so it's so cool that the developers are taking that outside of the game as well. The other thing that they do, they're a part of, and this is not an extensive list, there were a few more on their website, I just picked the ones that I thought were super neat, is that they have Us2 Games has joined the Playing for the Planet Alliance, which is a commitment from major companies in the video gaming industry to tackle the climate crisis in conjunction with the UN Climate Summit. So basically, companies that are within this alliance make commitments to, reducing their carbon footprint or giving back to the environment in some way. Other alliance members include Sony and Twitch and Strange Loop, which is a developer of a game that I would love to do, Al, hint, hint, called Eco. I'm going to play it no matter what. But Us2 Games specifically has committed to offsetting their carbon footprint entirely going forward. So any carbon footprint that this developer studio has in 2021, they will offset it in some way. And they want to reduce their carbon footprint by 30% by the end of next year, which are big goals. Like those are big sweeping steps that they're taking. It's not easy to do that. So that is amazing that they're making those commitments. So that is me getting off of my high horse of just praising the developers for really going above and beyond and practicing what they preach. It's really cool. Yeah, so that is Alba.
Yep.
So Al, in conclusion, what is your overall feeling of this game?
Yeah, I suspect people will kind of get the idea. I liked this game. It was really good fun. I liked the length of it. I liked the graphics. I liked the gameplay. Realistically, my complaints were nitpicks. With many of the games that we cover, we like the game and therefore we have to find something to complain about. And these are the things that were slightly frustrating to me. Overall, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I'd highly recommend.
Did you play it with your children at all, or will you?
I did not. That's an interesting question, actually. I have not done it with either of them. It possibly might be interesting to one of them. Certainly won't be interesting to the other for complicated neurological reasons. That's an interesting thing. I might, when I play it through on the Switch when I buy it, because I will also be doing that, might get Craig to see if he's interested in it. He is quite young, but he is starting to be interested in some things, and he might, he's at that point where he's pointing out animals, so you might find that interesting aspect of it, at least.
Yeah, one of the when I was researching for this podcast, one of the articles that I saw talked about how this is a really great game to play with children because, first of all, it's from a child's perspective, but also it is very simple and it allows you to have that childlike wonder and I mean, it's simple but elegant. So it can be played. I don't know. Yeah, that's
I might try. I might try playing it on the TV with Craig when it comes out on Switch. But he is still quite young. But it might be interesting to him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what about you? What's your conclusion?
It'll come as no surprise that I loved this game. And that as I've mentioned before, I will definitely be getting it for Switch when it comes out. I would love if they had some type of seasonal DLC where, animals migrated or whatever, which isn't super accurate for like an island. Animals don't tend to migrate on island communities. It's more in the like in the tropics. They don't migrate as much as they would in the Polish areas, like more northern hemisphere and very southern hemisphere. But I still I don't even care if they don't add new wildlife to the game or something. I will continue to play it. It had a very freeform, like Pokemon Snap meets wildlife conservation feel to me. And as a Pokemon loving wildlife biologist, I feel like this is the game I've always wanted to play. I mean, I would also love one that's more in depth. I think my one complaint as an entomologist was the lack of insects. So right out of the gate, there were cicada sounds. Like there are cicadas in the background, but you don't ever see them.
It's interesting because it's clearly bird focused.
Yeah.
But it's not entirely birds. There are like 5 non-birds, which is a weird number. Yeah. It's a weird number, right? Especially as I'm not going to say too much about it, but the entire story is based around a non-bird, which I'm not going to mention about.
Yeah.
But, and there are 5 non-birds. Why? That's a weird number. It's not just like 1, and it's not like a quarter of them. It's 5.
I mean,
that's a weird number.
As much as that sucks that there's only 5 mammals, it tracks with the relation of mammalian species to avian species. So
all right, okay.
There's not as many mammals as there are species.
Can I be pedantic and say that one of them is not a mammal?
What?
There's a gecko.
Oh, I forgot about the gecko. Yeah, you're right.
That's not important though. I just wanted to one up a biologist. Oh yeah.
No, I completely forgot about the gecko. You are so right. It was very cute. Yeah, and so I think my insects weren't represented, and that was sad because especially on an island, there could have been so many cool things. So I think that would definitely be a recommendation in the future if the devs are listening. Just add some insects. But I mean, even if you don't, I adore this game. Recommend it. My partner who's not super into more casual games like this, he watched me play it and was smiling a lot and giggled at the nodding and all of that. So definitely recommend it for everyone, and we'll play it again. So
agreed. Well, thank you, Codey, for joining me for this wonderful episode. Where can people find you on the internets?
You can find me at my Twitter, at Codey Mathis. That's CODEYMATHIS.
You can follow me on Twitter at the Scottbot. Scott has 1 T. I'm Scottish, just in case you didn't know. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at THSPod. Links to all of these will be in the show notes, as well as a link to our website, harvestseason.club, where you can email us and find all of our episodes and show notes, and also a link to our Patreon if you would like to financially support us. Please and thanking you very much. I think that's everything. Thank you, Codey, for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. Until next time,
have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Rochelle Delaney and Al McKinley, with support from our pro farmer level patrons, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode. Thanks for listening.
That was a great rendition of the theme tune. You realise that's going in the after credits, right?
You're welcome. Or